The quarterfinals of the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge commenced today after a day break from the prelims. So the first quarterfinal match was the match between Levon Aronian and Hikaru Nakamura of best of 4, and in the case of score 2 apiece, the game would go into an Armageddon. So this is the game 1 from the match. Levon has the white pieces, Nakamura has black. For the most of the game, Levon had a good winning position, and as you can see, he is a bishop ahead in the game, so the position could be winning. But as you can see, black king is in check and has to make a good decision, or should say a decisive decision, whether the game would go to a draw or he would lose. So there are two ways obviously for black to play the king a1 or king a3, and there's only one move which draws the game, and that is king a3. However, in this position Nakamura plays king a1, and this is a blunder because after rook f2 check, the king is somewhat cut on this rank and this cannot come up. That's the problem. After king b1, bishop d4, rook d1 check, king c3, rook e1, king b3, king c1, and after bishop c3, Nakamura resigned the game. Levon is 1 up after the first game. Why did he resign? If the rook goes this way, the rook is hit, then rook f1 will be made shortly, and if rook goes this way, then there's absolutely no defense for black after rook a2. The simple move is rook a1, and there is no stopping that. That will be checkmate if not played carefully. Let's say after rook a2, if you play king b1, then this is checkmate, and if you play after rook a2 you play king d1, and again this could be checkmate, or if not checkmate, after king e2 you will lose the rook because rook has to go to here, and this king won't be able to defend any of them sitting on e2 square. So Levon 1, Nakamura 0 after game 1. The next two games were drawn. Nakamura had a chance in game 3, but he couldn't able to convert it. He missed a simple continuation that could have been winning. So we go to game 4, and Nakamura has to win this game because if it draws this, then things can turn deadly dangerous for him. In fact, he would be eliminated if he doesn't play it well. So Nakamura is white in this game. This is game 4 from the match, and Naka plays e4, and we go to the Petrov, and we have seen this variation in all games played by Aronian with black, this variation of this, and c6, h4. This was the move h4 was played by Magnus, in which he won convincingly against Aronian. He blundered, I think he played c4, and things fell apart. Bishop d3, knight f6, h5, bishop g4, rook d1, queen d7, h6, g6. This was a good move. Knight d4, a6, and position looks pretty much equal, although white has developed his bishops and they look really good here, and this knight sitting well on d4, I think position could be better. So f3, kicking that bishop goes back, knight takes, pawn takes, king b1, b5. So Aronian is starting to push his pawns towards the queen side, and things can be turned dangerous if you don't deal with this very well. g4, so Naka attacking on the king side, e5, c4, and in this position he could have simply recaptured, and after bishop takes, king h8, still position looks a little bit shaky, but things could have been playable. But queen e6 in my opinion was a mistake, because you don't want to place your queen on the same diagonal as the king, because white still has this light square bishop, and you never know when this bishop can come into play. If you say, if you play, let's say, pawn takes, white, he can simply retreat. Okay, it's white to move. You say play takes, and then c4, and suddenly there is lot of tension on the queen side, although for white, but this diagonal is a vulnerable spot, and you don't want to put your queen on this diagonal. However, Naka plays queen e2 here, just trying to take that advantage. Possibly he could have played g5, but after knight h5 things could have been unpleasant. Maybe go for exchange sacrifice and place g6. Maybe that could have been a good continuation, but nevertheless queen e2, reinstating the threat of capturing and then playing c4. And we will see the role of this queen on e6 and this diagonal. Rook a b8, g5 now, so knight goes to d7, king a1, stepping away from rook's path because this exchange was on the cards, and this square would have looked a bit shaky, which happens. Bishop takes, although this is blocked by d5, but the bishop tucks back to b3, still keeping an eye on this diagonal, and queen placed here. This is not a good situation to be in. And meanwhile, if you see that queen is placed on the same file, so which means that another thing such as f4 can be on the cards. We're not far away from that as well. Knight c5, trying to exchange this bishop, but Naka exchanged this bishop. Good choice. Bishop takes, queen takes a6, and now I feel this was the decisive mistake. He could have simply played rook f8, and we will see the point of this move and the move played by Aronian. So the move which was played was bishop f2, and this is a mistake because after rook e2 the bishop is hit, bishop g3, then c4, and you cannot take it because bishop takes, and you see that diagonal, queen on e6, mistake from the outset. But black can close this diagonal by playing d4. Now comes c5, and this is why this move bishop f2 was a blunder, because had this bishop been on c5, this white move c5 wouldn't have been possible, because this bishop would have fixed this pawn here, and with this d4 it would have been black who looks on the driver's seat. However, this bishop is pinning the queen, so you have to give the exchange, and then queen takes b3. The position already looks a little bit shaky because after queen takes c6, the c pawn is somewhat pretty annoying, and there aren't any significant threats of rook a8 check or something of that sort, because after king b1 there is absolutely no attack. In fact, rook a8 check isn't possible because queen controls this. Bearing that in mind, not even queen a4. You see that? So rook b8, king b1, queen f7, queen f6, offering the trade of queens, which you should if you are exchange up. G takes, king f7, c6, this passed pawn is a monster, king takes f6, c7, rook c8, rook c1, defending the passed pawn, king e7, try to hunt that, rook c4, very good move indeed, just not allowing this, and also preparing for this rook coming to c2. If this rook had been here, then d3 would have been annoying. So by playing this, you played rook c2, then if d3, then rook c3, and this pawn is this pawn would be under control. The king will hunt this pawn down, and good move indeed. King d7, so looking for the pawn. Rook ec2 as expected. g5 by Aronian. Probably bishop e1 would have been a better try, but the position already looks totally lost with this pawn sitting on c7, a deadly monster here. And if this rook moves, then this can be a queen. Remember that. You cannot play this because pawn takes and position falls apart. b4, so he's trying to push is another pawn. g4, so if pawn takes, then this is annoying, but it can be managed by rook takes d4 check. So that happens. F takes g, but now bishop e1, and I think this is too late. Rook e2 attacks this pawn, attacks the bishop. Rook defends this b4 pawn. Bishop has to go to g3, wastes time, has to keep an eye on this pawn. b5 in the meanwhile, just trying to protect this passed pawn through pawn and try to initiate sequence of dangerous attacks. And possibly another try could be to push this pawn down to b7, and if white gets a lot of time, then he would like to play king c2, king d3, king e4, fix these two pawns, and black can resign then and there only. But nevertheless, rook takes e7, rook takes e7 check, king takes e7, white pushes his g5, d3 is too slow because after rook e4, Levon Aronian resigned the game, and the score reads 2 apiece after 4 games. So we go into the Armageddon game. Okay, first let's try what happens here. If d2, then king c2 hunts. If d2, then king c2 hunts the pawn down. Otherwise, white will create a passed pawn here, and this pawn runs home. And there's absolutely no way that this bishop can come back and defend this passed pawn. Totally hopeless for black. So we come into the Armageddon game, and this was the game in which Aronian had 5 minutes because he was playing white, and Nakamura had 4 minutes, but a draw would seal the deal for Hikaru. So in the Armageddon game, Levon opens with c4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, knight c6. This is so-called English opening, and this is King's English, as we have seen from Duda himself. d5, this is very well known. Bishop g2, knight b6, castles, bishop e7, d3, and black also castles, bishop e3. This is the system that actually Dingleren played against Hikaru Nakamura in the MC Invitational match, and I think in the same game in which Nakamura pinned his rook here towards the king. I think the same game, yeah, probably in that game, because Ding also plays the same system and is very well versed in that system. So probably not, could not be a system for an Armageddon game where you have to win, it must win situation. Nevertheless, Nakamura won't mind any of those. Bishop e6, queen d2, knight d5, rook fc1, f6, knight a4, rook e8, bishop c5 from white, bishop d6, possibly trying to improve the position for the recapture, a3, knight b6, and queen d1. So if knight takes, then you pick the bishop first, and then you have time to take your knight back. so that won't be ideal for black. So he goes bishop d5, bishop e3, so he tucks his bishop back, bishop f8, Nakamura does the same, b4, knight d4, and you have to take this knight with the bishop. That's very important. E takes, knight c5, and this is the system of not sacrificing but exchanging. This is quite well played by Anish Giri, who plays the system very well with white. And here you can see the b8 pawn is attacked but already defended. So the thing is that this bishop doesn't sit well on d5 at the moment, although it could be the best square given a chance. But on d5 it can easily be hit by e4 and then this, and then you try to attack it like that, and that won't be pleasant for black. So he plays rook b8 first to defend this pawn first so that this bishop can move, and if this knight goes then this is defended very well. You can play even c6 as well. That could have been a choice, but the game moves on. Knight b3 by Aronian. This was taken. The knight on f3 was captured. Pawn takes, c6. That's a good move. f4, knight a4. So looking to come to c3, and there is, I think, no way that my white can stop this. So continue his plan. Knight d2, knight c3 as expected. Queen b3 check. King h8. Rook e1 offering the trade of rooks. Queen d7, trying to bring this rook into the game. Knight e4 is trying to get rid of this annoying knight here, which he does. D takes, but there is a problem here. This d pawn is a passed pawn, and it is well supported by the queen. Possibly chances are that one of those rooks can come behind the queen, and black would like to dash this pawn down the board, creating so many potential decisive and deadly threats. And the position doesn't look well for Aronian here, and he has to win. So I don't see how can he gain a win in this position. Nevertheless, we are very far away from that. c5, this has to be taken. Bishop takes, bishop f1, stopping this. g6, and it looks like after bishop b5 is an exchange down. And I was watching this and I thought that, oh, Nakamura must have overlooked this move, but in fact there is a save. Queen e6, because this queen is loose, and if you take, thanks for giving your queen. So queen has either queen has to take or you block. He blocks. Bishop c4, queen d6, king g2. So his aim is to push this h pawn and try to put one of the rooks behind and try to initiate an attack on this h7 square. But on the other hand, black has his own counter attack in the form of this protected pawn, passed pawn, and one of the rooks, as I said, coming here and trying to dash this pawn down. The bishop is also looking at this a3 pawn, which is loose, and you might see a6, b5 sort of things happening. Things already look pretty nasty for white. Rook e7, queen f3, rook b e8, h4 as a plan, a6, a4, bishop b4, attacking the rook. Rook comes up to e2, queen c6. Now this is putting a lot of pressure on this, and once queens go off, then d4 pawn is looking really deadly with the ideas of d3. Bishop d5, queen c3, offering the trade of queens. Rook d1, and After this, queen takes f3, king takes f3. Here in this position, Aronian was running very short of time. He had a time advantage, 1 minute time advantage, but still he was running very low on time. And he was under Hikaru's time and under a minute. So this would have been very difficult. And without queens, I don't see how can Aronian would have won this even having 1 minute advantage. But bishop c3 defending the pawn, rook b1, rook d8. If bishop takes, then d3, d2, d1. And if rook takes, then there is a tactic of rook takes bishop, but you take this, or again d3, d2, d1 is way too strong for that. Bishop c4, d3, and rook e3 was played, which I thought was a mistake, because now in this position you can simply play rook d4, attacking this pawn even more. You can play even f5 here and things would really be ugly. But I think here d2 was way too quick, because this pawn may be advanced way too far from black's liking. After bishop d5, bishop a5, king e2, position looks a little bit level and looks like the opposite color bishop thing might come into this. We maybe see rook d3, and this pawn would be covered, and then this rook would be free to attack. Maybe f3, and then this chances are there. Rook c7, rook d1. The threat was to play this. b5, a takes, g4. So he's starting to push his king side, but there aren't any queens and he's running very low on time. Not so easy for Levon. Bishop c3 is solidifying everything. Bishop b3, b4 protecting this bishop as well. g5, f takes, h takes, rook f8, rook f3, rook e7, e5, king g7, e6. This pawn is protected by the bishop, as you can see. h6. Now g takes h6 check, king takes h6, rook g1. Now plan is to play bishop c2 and this initiating a battery on this g6 pawn. Rook f6 defends the pawn. Rook fg3. Rook e takes e6 check. Bishop takes. Rook takes e6 check. Rook e3, rook f6, rook e4. The position is equal, but Aronian was almost under 30 seconds and Hikaru had almost 50 or 52 seconds probably. King g7 drawn wouldn't have done Levon any good, but here he made this decisive mistake. Rook c4. After rook e6 check, Levon had to resign. Absolutely nothing that he could have done after rook e1, and pawn will take this rook with a queen defended by this bishop, and rook e6 comes with a check also, so that's why Levon resigned. So Hikaru advances through after losing that game 1, convincingly winning game 4, and then the Armageddon. He had the draw odds and he made good amends from that after securing a win instead of a draw. Well, draw would have been a win anyway, but a win is a win, whether it comes in normal game or in classical game or in Armageddon game. So Hikaru advances through, Levon gets eliminated. I'll be bringing you more games from other quarterfinals from this Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge. Stay with me, stay safe, cheers, bye.